Welcome back to episode 7 of the Rooted and Free Sisterhood podcast. And we
Yay.
are so glad you're here. I'm Joy
Yes.
McLaughlin,
And I'm Jenny Hershey.
and we have been having so much fun. And we hope that it has brought a little bit of joy into your lives.
Yes.
And if not, don't tell us. It's okay because we're still having fun.
Well, you've always got joy in your life,
I've
but
always got joy in my life. It
yeah.
was spoken over me from day one.
Yes.
Okay, so this time we are going to talk about our move to Washington. So
Yes.
we spent about 7 years in Arizona, and then Dad got an opportunity to candidate in Langley, Washington, which is on Whidbey Island. I believe
Yes.
it's one of the most beautiful places on earth.
It
It
really is.
is in the Puget Sound, second largest island in the continental United States.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so, I think we shared before, we heard that it was an island, and,
Yeah.
John immediately thought hula girls. We all thought, coconuts and palm
Yeah.
trees. And it's not because it's the Pacific Northwest. And so
Yeah.
the beaches are more rugged and just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, I think Mom said something like we were looking on the atlas and she's like, "No, it's an inch from the rainforest."
Yeah.
So,
And that proved to be, a big part of life
yes.
there is rain. But then there were those gorgeous
Yeah.
times, just kind of a mild summer, and it was beautiful.
Yes.
So, yes, so Dad candidated, he got the call, and we packed up and headed up to
Yes.
Washington. Um, and so I think we had shared
Yeah.
about like getting to the island was a challenge because there was a
Yes.
breakdown and all that kind of stuff, but then you get on the ferry and
Well, that in itself was traumatic. I
yeah,
thought we were going to die on the ferry because they had huge I'd never seen that, and all of a sudden this big, truck with huge loaded down with huge
yeah,
trees. It's on and I was like, "How can this thing float?" I was just like I'm
yeah,
from the desert, guys, so I don't know
right.
about floating things.
And
But
so,
that just the ferry ride was scary.
yeah.
Kind of.
And the whole fairy thing, it's just like it's kind of this culture that you have to,
Yeah,
learn because, there's not like instructions everywhere, but there were lines you got in and, you'd have to line up early at certain
yeah,
times of the day, and sometimes you miss the ferry, sometimes you
yeah,
miss the last ferry,
yeah,
John. And then to get home, the only way that you could get home is you had to drive all the way up the coast and then go across at what Deception Pass and
yeah, yeah,
then drive back down the
all the way
island
back.
to get home. Yeah.
Yeah,
But what an adventure. And that was just a really fun time. You were in high school, I was junior
yeah,
high. Um, yeah, and then going back, anytime we wanted to go like to the big city to go shopping, it was on the ferry. And so
yeah.
yeah, it was just a whole experience, and you would
It
see,
really was.
marine life
Yeah,
occasionally off of the ferry, and there's
yeah,
the seagulls, and I mean, it really was just a really sweet, magical time to be there.
y
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well,
So
'cause Langley had, like, 500 people in it.
it
So
had
we went from the city
no
of Phoenix up there.
stoplights, right? Or did it have one
No,
stoplight?
no,
N-
the closest stoplight, I think, was, like, 30 minutes away, and is there one in Coopville? I
I
don't
don't
remember, but
know.
I just remember the light being 30 minutes away because I don't even think they had one in down in Clinton.
Yeah,
The ferry was at the time.
yeah. I think there are um a few new. I can't even remember because Todd and I were just there. I
Oh,
wasn't
I'm
looking at
sure
the stoplights. I'm sure there were
well,
some.
Fern used to have one, and look at us now, we've got 3.
Wow,
So,
that's true. That's
we're
true.
progressing. Yep. So,
Um, so we moved during the school year. Well, first of all, our first introduction was the church. And I just
yeah,
remember like the warm welcome, and you just walk in not knowing anybody, which we kind of experienced that before, moving to
Yeah,
Phoenix. But I do remember just like the warm welcome and just people
yeah.
were so gracious and kind. And because it was a small town, like everybody knows who you are when you get there, whether
Well,
that
and
be good
two,
or bad, I don't know.
you've got to admit, being a pastor's family, everybody's looking for you. And when you walk in, all eyes are on you. You can't
Yes.
just slip in the back or people not talk to you. So I
Yeah.
do realize that when people were warm and gracious, there's the possibility they may not have been the same way to just an
Yeah.
average family or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
boy, did you feel, I will say you felt looked at that first Sunday when you walk
Uh-huh.
in and file in the pews and everybody's staring at you, including
Yeah.
kids your own age or something, and you're trying to smile, going, "Here we go again."
Yeah. Well, and
So,
it was a bigger church too, because our church in
yes,
Phoenix, I don't know, 50 people, 75 people. I have no idea.
probably
I'm
75
horrible at
maybe.
numbers.
Yeah,
And this church, I think, had like at least a couple hundred. So
yeah.
it was
It had
different.
a secretary. We talked
And it
about
had a
that.
secretary. We lived in the parsonage, which was just super close to the church.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was our first introduction. Well, no,
yeah,
actually, before we even made it to church, because we had driven from Arizona, do you
yeah.
remember? Do you
No.
remember, Dad? There was a laundromat downtown because our stuff was not all unloaded.
Yeah.
And so, God bless Dad. Like I mean, he loved the Lord. He had a lot of good attributes.
Yeah.
But like attention to detail was not necessarily all of his
Awareness around him. Yeah.
awareness. Yes. And so dad took this bag of laundry and he was going to walk downtown because we'd never been able to walk anywhere in Phoenix like that. He was going to walk downtown to the laundromat. And Jenny and I decided we're going to walk downtown to explore. And I just remember like walking and I'm like, that looks like my underwear. And then walk a little bit farther and there's like more clothes and we realized that dad had been dropping our dirty laundry. Wow, is that like dropping our dirty laundry along the way, so we
I
were like
forgot that.
scooping it up. Do you remember? That was before
Yep.
we even met anybody. Horrified because I was in
Oh,
sixth
that was
grade.
mortifying.
I was
Yes.
just embarrassed when my mom bought toilet paper at that point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The move with the
Anyways,
toilet paper.
right.
So,
Yeah, so that was us just being us.
yeah,
So anyways, yeah. So then we started school and we
yeah,
came in after school had already started, which is challenging anyway. And
yeah,
we went from Grace Christian, which was a very small, very conservative
yeah,
school, to this was a public school, which we
yeah,
hadn't experienced. And I just remember we could wear pants, right? We talked about the pants thing.
yeah.
And so
You could
mom,
wear jeans, not
yes,
just
mom
jeans,
bought me 3 pairs of Toughskins
which is,
from Sears.
yeah,
And so I remember walking in my Toughskins and just I was so shy anyway.
yeah,
And I was beyond. I remember mom walking me to my classroom and then leaving, and I just wanted to scream and run out after her.
yeah.
Oh my word. And it's not that people were mean, I was
No,
just
no.
scared. I was scared. Um, but anyways, what was your first impression of school?
I don't even necessarily remember my first impression. Um, I do remember liking that there were more kids,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because we went, and actually we went from, didn't we go from I was going to SCA
Oh, you were at SCA because I
on
was at
yeah,
Grace.
that first semester. I went one
Uh-huh.
semester my freshman year, and I had approximately 25 in my class. So going
Yeah.
to a school where there was 100 and
Yeah.
there were all these choices of classes. I was, at
Yeah.
first I thought this is great. and it's
And lots
public
of,
school and they have more
yeah,
money
and
and,
activities and
yeah,
yeah, just resources available. Yeah.
yeah,
And I did, get settled in and
yeah,
made some wonderful friends. They are still friends to this day.
yeah,
Yeah, but I remember the culture shock. And I just
yeah,
remember, because at Grace Christian, like you did not speak in class unless you were called on. And it was
yeah,
just a different atmosphere up there. And I just remember, you know, just taking it in and like, how am I going to survive? Because I was so shy, but met some wonderful people. Like I said, still have
yeah,
good friends from Langley. Yeah. But that was kind of the school culture.
yeah.
And then, yeah, I do remember that we moved out of the parsonage into a house right across the street from, it's now the
Literally.
old high
Yeah,
school. It
right.
was the high school at the time. And I remember mom just being, there were days where life was hard, because at this point I was in ninth grade or whatever. And I remember just asking mom, like, can I just stay home today or can I come home? And there were days where she would let us, let me come home. Or I remember one time Becky Nagy, we'll have
Oh,
to get
yeah.
her on here. That would be fun. But I think we went home and made cookies with mom or something. And like, I remember, I know,
Really?
I was the baby. I, I
Apparently,
had struggles. But I just
I had to
remember
clean the
like
house.
mom letting, and it meant a lot because I think she just understood, like it's just
Yeah,
whatever angst I had at the time needed some time off. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
Anyways.
Well,
Uh,
I remember, you were talking about the school culture. In 10th grade, I remember sitting in English class and some guy, I think he started mouthing off to the teacher. And it was an older lady, at least in my mind's eye. I'm probably older than she, she
probably.
was now, but at the time.
Yeah.
And she told him to go to the office, and he said no. And I remember at that point, I was like,
You can do that? You can tell a
he just
teacher
told her
no?
no. And for 10, 20 minutes, she followed him around the room telling him what to do, and he just kept blabbing to everybody and kept
Oh,
walking,
wow.
and she
Yeah.
and she had no power. And I remember feeling angry inside, and I thought, we are all held hostage. There is no teaching going on because nobody can do anything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was mad because I was like, that was why some back then the private schools, that was part of it, was simply
Yeah.
because they had less resources, but there was discipline. And so you
Yeah.
didn't have to
Yeah.
take the extended time
Yeah.
for things to happen. I just remember being shocked, and I mean, we were taught you show respect even if the
Yeah.
person them personally doesn't earn it because of their office. You show respect, and that
Right.
included teachers. And I just was like,
And that was, definitely, a rare occasion, but it did happen.
right.
And it actually happens at every school now. But yeah, just kind of
Well,
a
John was
different
part of
kind of
that
a
too.
culture.
Do you
Yeah.
remember John's wedding?
What
The
about
wedding?
John's wedding?
Well, when he was in Mr. Henderson's class for something, he was he was a senior when we moved up there. Senior, junior. But anyways, so he had to take
Yeah.
some of the Washington history to graduate,
Uh-huh.
even though it was a freshman class.
Yeah.
So he was in the class. I don't know how it started, but it was a legend. He decided to marry
No.
two kids in the class. And Mr. Henderson went to our church and he
I
was
do
like,
remember
John.
that.
And so finally, and John married them or whatever. And finally, Mr. Henderson's like, all right, go to the office. So apparently, John walked into the principal's office and the principal was like, "John, what'd you do now?" Because John was he was so happy go lucky, but he didn't always listen.
Right.
And he just was like,
Oh,
"Well,
that's hilarious.
they wanted to get married or something." And then finally, like the principal was like, "Okay, if I remember right, he's like, "Okay, just sit here for 10 more minutes and then go back and don't bother Mr. Henderson again." He didn't even
That's
really, because
hilarious.
John had that kind of personality
He
that wasn't
did.
defiant in your face. He
Yeah.
had you laughing even though you're like, "Now wait, this was wrong," and you
Right,
got him
right.
laughing.
Oh,
So
that's
anyway,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I know. We'll have
I
to have John on our Sisterhood podcast so he can defend
absolutely.
himself at some point. I
You
don't
know
know how
what?
that'll work, but
And I
or actually
bet
we should just get Kathy as wife on.
that would be much
We'll
better.
do that. Yes.
You know, I owe my history of being cheerleading captain due to Kathy. So,
Ah,
anyways, but that was at Grace. So,
yes.
because she was on the committee.
Yes, we'll have to get Kathy
Yeah.
on. That'll be fun. Um,
Anyways,
so
but
aside from school, church was a big part of our lives, obviously.
yeah,
Youth group, that was my first foray kind of into youth group. Well, I
yeah.
guess there was in Washington before we left, but then, I have real fond memories of youth group. And I'm trying to think, something came out. I don't know why I have this memory. I remember being in the new youth center that was upstairs, and I
Yes.
remember either somebody talking or something had come out about like the mark of the beast. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Something coming out, and like I think up to that point in my
Yeah.
younger days, like I gave that stuff no thought, but like it was talked about in youth group, just about, I don't
Right.
even remember if it was what it was. Do you?
Well, we showed that movie. Was
Okay,
it
maybe that was it.
what was the first one?
A Thief in the Night.
A Thief in the Night. I think we showed that. Do you
We
remember
did.
my Yeah.
Because I remember walking home after that, and it was not a far walk from the youth center to our house, but I
It was
just
just the
remember
yard.
looking up, like, are you coming? You know,
Well,
kind of shook me up.
and I don't know if we also showed the second movie, I believe, A Distant Thunder. So
Yeah.
maybe it was after that. Because when I walked out after one of those movies, and the thing was, a friend of mine from school was in that movie, and the youth pastor was talking to her, and I remember desperately wanting her to receive Christ, and
Huh.
she didn't.
Yeah.
My mind was full of the movie, praying for
Yeah.
her. I walked out, and so when you walked out of that, you looked up. Well, maybe this wasn't the new youth. This might have been the before the youth center was built.
Okay.
So I walked out, so I'm facing directly at our old house. And remember the big Washington sky. I looked up, and all of a sudden the sky is full of this white light that is like undulating and stuff.
Oh,
It
wow.
was like my first thought, okay, this is such a church kid thing. My first thought, I saw it and I was like, he's coming. Do I run home and tell dad? Or do I run back in and get her to? And all of a sudden I went, wait a minute. I would not have the time to think about
Right.
it. But it was the
Uh,
Northern Lights. I had no idea
oh, yeah.
that that's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I remember, I mean, precious times at youth group. That was, a really pivotal time in my walk with the Lord and
yeah.
just, you know, that was very cool. Um our
Well, I have one. I just wanted to say I have one story. One time we were in Sunday school and we had a friend Tom, and he was sitting in there and we were talking about Psalm 1.
yeah.
And there's a
Oh
verse that
yeah.
goes, "There's a tree planted by the waters,
Right.
and a tree planted by the waters." And he was like, "What?" And we were trying to
Yes.
figure out what he was talking about. He goes, "Tree planted by the water." And we're going, "Yeah." And he goes, "How does the water plant the tree?" And of course, all of us church kids were like, "What?" Because we realized that once we
Right.
explained it, he was like, "Oh," he realized he
Oh,
just read it
Tom.
wrong. But
Yes.
that
Oh,
was a good
that's
time.
funny.
Yeah.
Our first youth pastor while we were there was Curtis Nelson,
Yes.
and his wife was Katrina. I remember
Yeah.
going to their house, and he played the guitar, and
Hmm.
I remember he had these keys that were like on a big like ring.
Yeah.
Um, And I remember I was just like kind of like twirling him on my finger and he's sitting there, playing his guitar or whatever. Well, it slipped off my finger and hit his guitar and like dented his guitar. And remember, this is Shy Joy, and I was horrified. And he kind of made a joke about it and kind of went on, but like, oh my goodness, horrified, horrified.
I
And then
forgot that.
Curtis left,
Mhm.
and then Dick Jeffers came,
Yeah.
right? He was the next.
Well, did Becky and what was her husband's name?
Oh, yeah.
I thought of them before, but I think they had
They were
helped
kind of
Curtis and then they
interim.
stayed and they were
Yes.
like interim,
I
kind of
can
like,
picture, I can picture
yeah,
them, but I can't remember their names.
yeah. And then
And
Dick Jeffers.
and then Dick Jeffers came, and Dick and Marilyn had been in Dad's youth group, right?
Yeah.
In California.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
we determined? Yeah, and those were really fun times.
Yeah.
Good youth group. So aside from church and school, um, there were lots of visits to the beach because we lived right by the water, walks on the beach. I remember collecting um sand dollars and
Wow.
seeing starfish, and just, the water was cold like year round. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like swimming beach,
Mm.
but just being by the water to this day, it still
Yes.
is
Yeah.
so sweet. And then in um in high school, John played football, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, because he got injured.
Right
But
before
but
like
those were
final.
those were really fun times, like traveling to
Yeah.
all the football games, and mom and dad always took us. And yeah, and then John got injured, and
Yeah.
right before they went to state, right?
Right.
And so there's a
Yeah.
picture of John. He's got a full leg cast. That was quite
Yep.
the ordeal because our house was not set up great for
It
that
was
kind of
small.
thing.
Yeah.
But there was a picture on the Seattle front page of the Seattle Times, right? Of
Right.
John kind of
Color.
standing up.
Color.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
when we won or whatever. So
Because his leg was tied down. They had the wheelchair leg extended, and I think they tied it down. So he was standing on the other
tied
leg.
down. Why was he tied down?
I
We'll have to ask him about that too. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, just some really sweet memories and visits over to Seattle. I remember this was a different time. I remember Becky and I, and there was another friend too, I think, and we somebody dropped us off at the ferry. We went across the ferry. We got on a bus, took it all the way down to Seattle, ventured around Seattle by
See,
ourselves.
I wouldn't have done that, I don't think.
Yeah, I, just didn't know any better, I guess. But it was a
Well,
different time then.
it was. Well,
Yeah,
because I was part of a group that took a trip to Washington, D.C. So we flew from Washington, D.C. We had one, maybe two sponsors, but a group of kids. And I remember us spending the day, half a day alone in Washington, D.C. I can literally remember
yeah,
we're totally tourists and we kids are going, that wouldn't happen now,
I
you know.
know. I mean, that was
Yeah.
40 years ago. It's just a
Yeah.
different time. Yeah, but
What
really
about Mount
beautiful
St.
too.
Helens?
Oh, yeah. So mom and dad had gone to a conference for church, and it was a Sunday morning. And I remember we were getting ready for church, and it sounded like we had this old heavy wooden garage door that was
Yeah.
just a manual, open, close, and it sounded like somebody had slammed that garage door. But I think like we didn't even park inside there, so like there wasn't an
Yeah.
occasion for that. But that's what it kind of felt like, sounded
And
like.
the door kind of shook because I think I had a bedroom over that.
Yes, you
And things
did. You had
kind of,
that little upper
yeah.
loft
Oh, I love
area.
that place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I don't know, was it before when we got to church? Because we didn't have cell phones back then. How did we
Well,
find
no,
out?
well, we we were like, "What is it?" And John's like, "I think they're dynamiting on the island." And we were like, "On
Mm,
Sunday morning?" Or
yeah.
something. And then we got to church and they said what it was.
And the top had blown. Yeah.
And so even though we were at what, 100 and some miles away, we still felt it. But we were like, if Mount St. Helens was down here, we were up and left, and the ash plume went all the way around the world before any dropped in Langley.
Yes. Yeah, because we were west of it or left if you're Jenny.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm doing my left. I'm doing what I feel. No, but
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
exciting.
And people, I mean, up there were people that had like feet deep of
Yes,
ash.
yes.
Yeah, but we didn't
Oh,
get
I've still
any,
got a
yeah,
little
until it went all the
container
way
of it.
around the globe.
I've still
What?
got a little container of it somewhere that
Oh,
mom
do
kept.
you? I
Yeah, it's
have
a little like
mom
milk
bought.
carton or thing.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
mom bought an ornament that had been made out of the ash, and I
Oh,
have that
really?
somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 Isn't that crazy?
That
Yeah.
was pretty exciting because we'd been living in Washington, we'd been living with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was imminent. I mean,
Yeah.
that was all people talked about. Of course, back then you had newspapers and you had the evening news.
Right.
So you
That was
didn't,
it.
yeah.
So then when mom and dad came back from conference, they flew over the area and they said it was just unrecognizable. Yeah,
Yes.
that was,
Looked like a bomb had gone off. And didn't they
mm-hmm.
have to fly around so they wouldn't fly through the plume of ash?
Yeah,
The planes had to take a different route, otherwise it'd kill the engines
yeah,
if they flew
yeah,
through it. So,
yeah. So,
yeah,
yeah, I don't
that
know. I
was a
can't
big
think.
thing.
I know there's more stories. For a period of time, Dad's parents, Grandma and Grandpa, moved up
Yeah,
to the island, which was really sweet. They had a house built, and
yep,
that was the first time in our lives that we had
yep,
lived close to them. The only time really until at the end of their lives when they moved
right.
into Swiss Village. And so that was really precious. They
That
built this
was.
cute little house and they they hated commercials. And so if you were watching TV with them, as soon as a
Yep.
commercial came on, that TV was muted. It's not a
And we
bad
all sat
idea.
there like idiots and still watched the
And
commercial
watched it just
without.
silent. Yeah, but those were really precious times. And
Yes,
then Grandma and Grandpa Pinky, mom's parents came up to visit. They drove
yep,
from Tucson, right? I think they were in Tucson.
yes.
They drove their little car all the way up there. And Grandpa Pinky loved salmon. And so I think we went down to
Oh, that's right.
like Pike's Peak Market right down by the water in Seattle. And he
Yes.
got these two huge salmon. Do you remember that? And I
Oh,
think
he babied those.
we ate one of those, but then the other one, like he bought dry ice and he hauled that thing all the way back to
That would be
Tucson.
great.
Oh my goodness,
Because I
memories.
remember him agonizing over, did he grill it or something outside or barbecue?
Yeah,
I just remember him constantly messing with it,
yeah.
but it was
He
really
was a
good.
good cook. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are fun times. And so
Yep.
then um God kind of closed that door for us and we headed back down then to Arizona again, but like such fond memories of our time in Washington. And our we need to get some of our Washington people on to
Yes,
reminisce with us too.
that would be fun.
Yeah, and there are people that, they were born and lived on the island and they're still there, and that's just
Yes.
so cool. So I'm sure, when Todd and I were back there 2 years ago, it had changed so much. I remember there were things that I
Oh,
remembered a lot that, because it's been 40 years that I didn't remember,
yeah.
but it would be fun to hear people who have continued to live there and just, their take on the changes
Yeah.
on the island as well. But anyways, all right, I think that's it for
Cool.
today. Yes, if you want to join us, sign up on the form that'll be down below. Yeah, but we would love to have you and because you're gonna get sick of us if it's just the two of us. So And we are going to start having other people on too, which will be really fun. But anyways, I think that's
Awesome.
it. So have a
Okay.
great day.
Take care, people.